Hello everyone, to all the 37 of you loyal viewers. I just hope you're enjoying this three-part series and all the individual snippets that we've made only for you. I just have a request from you again. Don't forget to comment if you think we are right, if you think we are wrong. Cricket is a game of opinions and we really want to know yours. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon because we want you to gain access to our videos really as soon as possible. Thank you.
खिलाड़ी वाह वाह जियो खिलाड़ी वाह वाह
Then next on the poll we had Stuart Broad versus Waqar Yunus. Uh, Again, a battle between an English and a great Waqar Yunus, a proponent of the reverse swing. So we've got something new in the mix now. So what do you think about this, Tom? This matchup?
Well, do you know what? I want to let the other guy speak first on this because I think just the name Stuart Broad normally riles Australians a little bit. So I'd just love to hear them. I'll let them take the floor first of all.
Look, when he's bowling in England, it does rile us up. There's no doubt about it. Riles David Warner up as well, without a doubt. But I think Stuart Broad has been a fantastic bowler for England. Not taking anything away from him there, but I think the sign of a great bowler is when probably things aren't quite your way, especially considering the conditions. I think you change a Duke ball to a Kookaburra ball and get out of England and go to Australia or New Zealand, and Stuart Broad isn't quite the same. I think his record is testament to that. And also the last Ashes series in Australia, he was expected to be the man to lead England's bowling attack in Australia, and he couldn't quite, pose the threat he does in England. So I think he's a wonderful bowler, does very, very well in England. I think for me, Waqar Yunus was just something special. I think what he could do with his strike rate, I think it's only second to STEYN on that list.
Yeah.
Oh,
just second to Steyn.
Ridiculous. And just wicket-taking mindset, wherever he would go, it was always looked like taking a wicket. Always having that attacking mindset. I think you're comparing two good bowlers there, but for me, it's Waqar. Just unbelievable to watch, really.
One of my favourite memories of Stuart Broad doesn't actually involve him, but after the 2013 Ashes, there was the back-to-back series, and 2013-14, England came out to Australia, and I was out having a drink with friends in the city a day or two before the Ashes started. And there were three guys from the Barmy Army there, and they had a full life-sized cutout of Stuart Broad that they'd brought along to the pub with them, which I thought was fantastic. So yeah, he's that 2015 when he took, what did he take? 8 for 15. I can't remember.
8 for 15, yeah.
Yeah. I sometimes watch the highlights of that, and I pretend I'm English just so I can watch it and not cry. It's.
I think it's okay to watch it. I think it's okay to watch it when we've got the. And it hurts less when we've got it. But yeah, England Cricket put it up yesterday, I think, on Twitter again, and I have to see this. But no, what he could do with the ball, when he's on a roll, Broad, he's a special bowler because he's bowled some outstanding spells in South Africa as well. There was one, I think, about 10 years ago. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Was it in Durban? He turned the game on its head with 6 wickets, and when he got on a roll, he was a very good bowler to watch. So I'll give him credit there.
Yeah, and Waqar Yunus, absolutely magnificent, obviously.
Yeah, I think you're all being very, very kind to Broad, and I'm sure there's another side to you, which we could see at another time. But yeah, I think when you say Waqar Yunus to me, I just think of in-swinging Yorkers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And we talk about like number 11s being awful at batting, but he made some very good batsmen look awful at batting as well. And I think we all know exactly how this poll's going to go. When you've looked at some of the stats and some of the strike rates that Charbel just mentioned. But one thing I'll say about Broad as well is he really has kind of like reinvented himself on more than one or two occasions. He kind of started off as we were like, is he a bit like Sam Curran at the moment? We were like, well, he can bat brilliantly. Maybe he'll bat at number 5 and he'll be a batting all-rounder. And then he kind of turned into the enforcer, and we were going to get him to bowl bouncers all the time, and that didn't really work. And going back a couple of years ago, it really looked like his career was on the way, and he was on his way out.
Yeah.
Even this time last year, he'd only played 2 of the tests, I think, in the West Indies and only 1 in Sri Lanka. And then he just, absolutely fired back in the Ashes and was just absolutely incredible. And he does just love playing against Australia, which again probably is why he endears himself to a lot of the England fans. But one thing I'll say about Broad as well is DRS. He is lethal. If you gave him the opportunity to review every decision that goes against him, he would. So that's just another.
He does it anyway.
Exactly. But that's one of the beauties of him. You just know he will be convinced. He's convinced it's out if he's got the ball in hand. If he's batting, he's often convinced he's not out as well, even though he's blatantly edged it, which we've seen on a few occasions. So yeah. Well done, Broady, but I think Eunice is probably going to take this one, isn't he?
Yeah.
Jeff Thompson actually has him covered there. I remember Jeff Thompson was commentating once, and it was the last ball before drinks. It was an overseas test match, and they're going to throw back to the Sydney studio. It was a big appeal for LBW. It was not out, and they showed on the replay it pitched about a foot outside leg stump, and then it would have hit the stump, so it pitched about a foot outside leg stump. And Jeff Thompson said, well, I don't know what the umpire is doing there. That was plumb. And they threw back to the studio in Sydney, and the studio guys go, I think Jeff Thompson doesn't know the LBW law. And they're like, he genuinely does not know the law.
I think one thing I'll say about Stuart Broad was when he pitches the ball up, I think he's a different bowler. I think when England tried to get him to be that enforcer, it was in the 2010 Ashes series. I think he played a couple of tests before getting injured, but he was bowling a lot of short stuff, and that's what England wanted him to do. I think there was a series in 2011, India came over to England and he just started all of a sudden pitching the ball up fuller, and then he just took a bag full of wickets, and then he just went upwards from there. So credit to him. Again, like Anderson, his longevity has been outstanding, and he's been a great servant for English cricket, so credit, mate.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing of Waqar, Waqar and Wasim, they didn't really have the best off-field relationship. But because of that, they just got annoyed when the other guy took wickets. So that turned out to be great for Pakistan. And as an Indian, I've always been so jealous of the factory of fast bowlers that Pakistan has. They just keep coming with the next great guy.
Incredible.
So the result of the poll was, of course, Waqar has much better stats, but Broad had the longevity. But Waqar took it by 70% of the votes. So next on, we had Dale Steyn versus Sean Pollock. So of course, battle of two South Africans, two great players, I must say. Steyn, he's probably the player who I have seen the most live, and he has tormented India even in Indian conditions, which is not something that a lot of bowlers can say. Like recently, he had a Twitter Q&A where he said, his favorite spell was actually in Nagpur, where I think he got a 7 for against us. And So, what do you guys think about this matchup, Steyn versus Polly?
Two incredible bowlers for South Africa, and you see the respect they had for each other when Steyn went past Pollock as their highest ever wicket taker for South Africa. Pollock was calling it in the commentary box, and they both had the thumbs up to each other. Steyn from the field, Pollock from the commentary box. So two greats of the game, two gentlemen. Even though Steyn didn't always show himself to be a gentleman when he was bowling, but that's what made him so great. He was just fierce, and he would not have been out of place, I think, in my opinion, in the 70s and 80s when you had those, fearsome fast bowlers. I think Steyn would have fit right in because of his aggression and what he could do. Interestingly enough, I think both of them had quite similar averages, but I think Steyn, when it comes down to it, that strike rate, just incredible strike rate. I think it's the best of any bowler with more than 200 wickets in Test history, and as good as Pollock was, I think Steyn in that battle for me, just outstanding. My favourite bowler ever, for me, personally.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah, and Steyn's strike rate just stands out, doesn't it? I mean, his bowling average is fantastic, but that strike rate is just incredible. And Pollock, I'm pleased that he gets a mention here because a lot of people tend to dismiss, to a degree, his bowling because he wasn't quite as quick.
No,
and, but he was a very, very good bowler. When you throw in his batting as well, I think he's a little bit of an underrated cricketer. He's one of the, when you talk about the world's great all-rounders, he tends not to get mentioned, but he really should be. And obviously comes from a family. His dad, Peter Pollock, was a fantastic fast bowler, and his uncle, Graham Pollock, was one of the great batsmen of all time. So, what a family.
No, I agree with that on Pollock being the mentioned more in the all-rounder space, because his average, the difference between his batting and bowling average is about 10. I think he averaged about 30 odd with the bat and just over 20 odd with the ball. What a great cricketer having
hard to do, very hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'd just add to what they both said there, and it's quite nice, isn't it, to just talk about two South Africans, and there's no we're not got any kind of preconceived ideas or hatred to chuck in there. And I think my two pennies worth on this debate is from a very kind of basic cricket watching perspective is just how completely different their actions were. Like you look at STEYN, who kind of just like sprints in and bowls just like everything in a rush, and you can imagine doing a forward roll at the end of it as well, and then just like sprinting back to his mark as if he's got 2 minutes to get everything done. Whereas Pollock much more kind of languid, and I just kind of remember Pollock when he actually bowled, he kind of almost thought, is he all right? Is he not just like broken his back and two legs at the same time? Like some of the positions he got himself into and his head and everything, it was just all very weird. But as I think we know, it doesn't really matter what it looks like, because it was all very, very effective in the end.
Yeah, of course. And this poll was, like you guys said, STEYN took it by 90% of the votes. Of course, STEYN's strike rate just stands out in comparison to anybody, really. The next one that we had on the poll was Malcolm Marshall versus Wasim Akram. Now, we were talking about actions, and Wasim Akram's run-up. I mean, such a short run-up and so much impact. I remember Akram from the ODI point of view, where, that over versus England and how he changed the game for Pakistan. And really, Wasim Akram is that, also, that left armer really gets me fascinated and gets me more interested in the bowler. So, yeah, I really love Wasim Akram. I didn't really see a lot of Malcolm Marshall, but the interesting thing was that they considered him the short one, but he was 5'11". So, really interesting there. What did you guys think of this matchup?
I think Malcolm Marshall has legitimate claims to be the greatest fast bowler ever. A lot of people would say so does Wasim Akram. So, again, this is a very
tough battle. Yeah.
This is a Federer versus Federer sort of battle. Malcolm Marshall, when he ran into the wicket, it almost looked as though someone had dodged up the tape and you were seeing it at 1.5 speed. He was just so quick in. And his record is, he has a bowling average of around about 21, along with Garner and Ambrose in the modern game. That's as good as it gets. The story I always remember, it's not one I saw, but one where Ian Botham tells the story of that he got hit batting and it broke his arm. And they were like, oh, finally, we're going to get a bit of respite. He's not going to be able to bowl against us. And he came out with a plaster cast on his left arm and took 6 wickets and destroyed them. And it was like, he's just phenomenal. And it's one of the really saddest things in sport that he died at the age of barely about 40 or something.
I think it was about 40 odd,
yeah. I mean, it's horrific, really. Such a wonderful bowler. And every time I see him, I just am transported back to those days watching of the West Indies at their absolute peak. And he may well have been the best of them all.
I think I'd jump in and I'd say, sure, that Wasim, just great to have a left-hander in there, left-arm bowler, and just the variety that brings to it. And he, as I think you mentioned, or we're going to, that he's the short run-up and all that, just beautiful, just a different way of doing it. And we were quite spoiled over here because he played for Lancashire as well. And there's some great footage of him turning various one-day games with both the bat and the ball. So just one of those great cricketers to watch. Just whatever it was that he does. And again, with Marshall, bit before my time. But conveniently enough, actually on yesterday's pinch hitter trivia we did was who took the most wickets against England during the 1980s, and he was the only one who took over 100. So even if you don't know anything about cricket, you can just look at that stat and be like, right, okay, well, he's clearly very good. And bearing in mind, I think there was maybe a couple in the 90s, most people in the 60s. So just absolutely streets ahead, and clearly an incredible bowler.
Yeah, I think if someone asked me who would you rather have in your team, I would outsource that responsibility to someone else, and whoever they pick, I'm happy, to be honest, to have either one of them in my team. Very hard pick. I think Wasim Akram, for me, got to say, he's the best left armer to ever bowl, best left arm bowler in history. Just what he did with the ball, you think, did he actually do that? From these angles around the wicket, angulating into the right-hander, you think, okay, I'm going to flick this through mid-wicket, easy, and then just swings away and clips you off stump or you're edging it through to slip. Just how consistently he was able to do it right up until he finished as well. Two incredible bowlers, and as I said, for me, it's very hard to choose between them. Statistically, they're both very good, and skill-wise, they're both incredible.
Yeah, and of course, Akram, I think he's the only left armer on this list that we have here. So, and also a great proponent of reverse swing again. Malcolm Marshall took this by a whopping 84%. So again, I think if you had just put the names out there, I think it would have been closer. But with the stats, the fans went with Malcolm Marshall. So in our final poll in the round of 16 was Ambrose versus Imran Khan. Now again, a battle of between the West Indies and the Pakistanis. Again, Imran Khan, a great all-rounder, and what he has meant for his country even after finishing the game, now that he's PM. So again, it just shows you the kind of impact that cricket has, especially in countries like ours, where the cricketers just become superstars. Even outside the game, they can have so much influence. Like, I think Virat Kohli maybe is the most powerful person in India. And like when the scandal happened with the Aussies, they said that, the captain is the second most important person after the Prime Minister. So really, these kind of players bring that up. So what do you guys think about this battle?
I think, look, if I was facing Curtleigh Ambrose and I saw that stare that he would give after he'd send one whistling past your nose, I'll be like, thanks, boys. I put the bat under my arm. I said, I'm retiring. I'm walking off. Just pure scary. And again, just didn't look like he was trying too hard. I felt when he was running in and bowling, but just how quick, how quick he was, and he get that ball to rear up off the length so awkwardly. Again, I was able to watch him when I was quite young in that tour of England that the West Indies had in 2000, and poor England boys couldn't touch it. And how old was Ambrose then? Was he in his mid-30s or something? Still absolutely on fire. So his longevity and how good he was able to maintain his consistency. He took over 400 wickets at an average of 20 in nearly 100 tests. That's superhuman stuff.
That's incredible, yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I wouldn't want to face him, that's for sure. I feel sorry for the batsman who had to.
And of course, I think he had that great spell against the Aussies, right? Like where he just
7 for
went
1
on a roll.
That ball he got Border with, poor Alan Border. Imagine getting that first up. It's gone, middle leg stump, nipped away, hit about the shoulder of the bat, caught the keeper. It's just, you can't get much better than that. It's top quality.
Didn't him and Steve Waugh have a big Waugh have a bit of a tussle? Yeah. Steve Waugh and Ambrose.
That's why you got so much respect for Steve Waugh, honestly. Steve Waugh would face up to that, face up next ball, cop a hit, doesn't matter. I'm going to get forward to the next ball if it's pitched up. And it just goes to show how good Steve Waugh was and those plays around that time, because you had to face those bowlers and who were just after your head, really. I didn't care if they hurt you back then, honestly. They wanted to. Different times.
Yeah. Two of the greatest cricketers of all time. Because I'm a bit of a nerd, I've always been annoyed that there's no stat that can accurately measure how good an all-rounder is. And with not all that sophisticated maths, I came up with the formula once and plugged everyone's name into it. And just on stats, that Imran Khan came out as the number 1 all-rounder of all time, according to my primitive maths. But, what was it, batting average about 37, bowling average of 23, just unbelievable. But Curtleigh Ambrose, I said before, Malcolm Marshall may well be the best. I saw him right at the end of his career when I was very young. But from watching as a sort of a little bit older than that, no one can touch Ambrose. And that Steve Waugh confrontation with him in 95 was on the back of the 92-93 series in Australia, where I haven't checked this, but I've heard it said, and I'm pretty sure it's true. Steve Waugh batted at 3 in that series, played all 5 test matches and didn't hit a single boundary off Ambrose in the entire series. That's how good Curtleigh Ambrose was. And when he took that 7 for 1, that was after Australia had lost by 2 runs in the previous test match at Adelaide which would have given Australia the first victory over the West Indies in a series in generation. And then it was 1-1 coming into Perth. And it was like, Australia, we should have taken a leaf out of the book of every other country in the world and started doctoring pitches, but we produced a fast, bouncy pitch in Perth, like naive idiots that we are. And Ambrose took 7 for 1 and blew us away. So, yeah, if I had to pick of all of these guys, and I've probably said this about 5 of them, but maybe Ambrose is the number 1 for me.
It's hard. It's impossible to pick, honestly. I completely understand it, mate. It's so difficult. You're all great.
I think you're spot on with saying just scary for Curtly Ambrose, isn't it? It's the amount of times that he just kind of looks down at people. I mean, I'm not the tallest guy, but he would absolutely tower down at me if I was at him. And again, Imran Khan, probably a player a little bit before my time. But the fact, going on to become a prime minister, to me, that's inconceivable.
Yeah.
And I think the only kind of England player that I think about who could have, has that kind of statesmanship like about him, that's what I was trying to say, would be Andrew Strauss. And you could imagine him being a prime minister. But I thought I'd just put it back to the Aussies and say who of their motley crew.
David Warner.
David Warner, excellent.
I was going to say that too. David Warner. Yeah.
Gets your vote, excellent.
Knowing our standard of politicians, he'd probably be an improvement. But actually, one thing I remember about reading about Alan Border when he was facing Imran Khan when he first started playing, that he said that he would leave balls that Imran Khan bowled and they would hit him in the back. And he's like, how is the ball moving so much? I go to leave it go and it's hitting me in the back. This guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, just had that presence, didn't he? He was an incredible leader. And you know what? That's translated into the political side of things as well as a result, leading Pakistan in the one-day format to that 92 World Cup, and just the presence he had on the field. The greatest players always had that presence, when they stepped out on the field that something special was going to happen. He was one of them.
Yeah, and whenever I hear interviews of, Wasim Akram or Waqar Younis, they always mention Imran Khan and, how they were groomed by him in a system that, maybe was not that conducive. He made sure that he was going to groom these fast bowlers to take Pakistan cricket forward. But unfortunately, the Prime Minister couldn't win this poll, and Ambrose took it by, getting 82% of the votes. Again, the sheer average that Ambrose had over his career was just amazing. So just to wrap this round up, the biggest observation that I made was 3 West Indians are now in our quarterfinals. So we saw Akram losing, we saw Imran Khan losing, and like Paul was saying, the kind of impact that the Windies had, and I think they had the longest streak where they did not lose a test series when they had those fast bowlers going around. So really, the downfall of West Indian cricket has been really sad, but when those guys were on a roll, I mean, combined with the kind of swag that the guys like Richards and everyone had, they were truly incredible. So having 3 Windies in the top 8 is something really a great observation.
And guess what, guys? We haven't mentioned Michael Holding yet. We haven't even mentioned Michael Holding. We didn't even mention Joel Garner. So that just gives you a picture of just how incredible they were.
Andy Roberts as well.
Andy Roberts as well, mate.
They went 15 years without losing a test series from 1980 to 1995. And the series they lost in 1980, if you've never seen it, look it up on YouTube. The New Zealand umpire, I think his surname was Goodall. It was some of the worst umpiring you've ever seen. Michael Holding, who's quite a placid guy, kicked the stump out of the ground.
That's
he was so
right.
angry.
Yes, I saw that
And he was
footage.
completely justified in doing it. I think Colin Croft ran in and elbowed the umpire as he bowled. It was outrageous.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's brilliant. Absolutely
It's
brilliant.
worth watching.
Can you imagine if Twitter was around then and that was happening?
Oh, it would have blown up, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It would truly being and again, I often hear stories of why Gavaskar is rated so highly here in India, because he just went there and he had such a great record against the West Indies, and the most important thing being he was so fearless. He said, no, I don't need a helmet, it's not going to help me anyway, so if they're going to hit me on the head with this kind of helmet, there's no point. So he just played without the helmet, and that's why Gavaskar's stature just is so high in Indian cricket. So what were the other wrap-ups that you thought with this round, and what were the other shocks that you thought happened? Do you think there was something that the fans got wrong, or is it too close to call?
I would say.
I think it's surprising.
Yeah, go, Paul.
Yeah. No, there you go. You go.
All right, I'll take Lily over Anderson myself. Sorry,
That's
Tom.
what I was going to say.
Yeah, sorry, Tom. Look, at the end of the day, I think for me, it probably comes down to who would I rather face or who would I rather not face. At his peak, I don't want to face Dennis Lilly. I don't want to face him. And I think a lot of batsmen would feel the same way. I think the thing with Lilly was just incredible, after that back injury he had, but even from a cricketing sense, whenever the trips were down and, the captain needed someone to stand up and things, it was Dennis Lilly. It was always Lilly to come through with the goods when things weren't quite happening. So, a legend in Australian cricket, and I think he's one of the all-time great bowlers. I think that doesn't deserve to be out in the first or in the round of 16. You deserve to go further.
I agree.
Yeah.
But in defence of England, I would say that one bowler that didn't make it, because obviously you've cut it at the top 16 wicket takers of all time, is Fred Truman, who, well before my time, I'm pleased to say is before my time, I have no memory of him at all.
Just about, yeah.
But when he finished his career, had taken more wickets than any other bowler. So it wasn't as though he didn't take many wickets. He took, I'm looking at his stats now, 307 wickets at a bowling average of 21.6, strike rate of 49.4. And just to emphasise how much cricket they used to play back then that wasn't Test cricket, first class cricket, he had a bowling average of 18.3 and he took 2,304 wickets. So I think he is England's greatest bowler of the last many, many, many years. Comfortably better than Jimmy Anderson, but because Jimmy Anderson's taken the most Test wickets and he's very recent, he obviously gets all of the plaudits. He's a wonderful bowler, but I think fiery Fred Truman deserves a mention. Yeah.
Good shout there.
Yeah.
Tom, your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts. I'm pretty happy with how all the votes have gone so far. I think they're we spend a lot of our time nowadays arguing about democracy and claiming that the wrong people are in power, don't we? So I think for once I'm just going to let it be and say no second referendum. Let's crack on. Happy with it, and at least Jimmy Anderson's through to the next round.
And like you mentioned that maybe who you would not like to face. And another thing that I noticed was that of the top 8 wicket takers in the 16, only 3 of them actually went to the next round, which says that even though you may have taken the most wickets in terms of your average and strike rate, maybe there were some bowlers that we missed who had like a greater impact even in shorter careers, but maybe injuries, maybe playing for not such great teams, they could not really fulfill their potential.
Hey!